Hi everyone and welcome to Inside Bristol. I'm your host Sheridan Nichols, and joining me today we're kicking it off with National Preparedness I gotta say that right, Preparedness Month, and we've got Jack Spurgeon here to tell us all about it. So tell us about this month and how does the fire department get involved here in Bristol?
Well, for the past couple of years we look for opportunities to be able to make more outreach to the communities, and preparedness is just one of those categories that we really need to touch on, because we never know when we could have some type of disaster here. And I know when we have emergencies and so forth of that nature, everybody feels that it's a disaster to them at the moment, but we're really talking about when you have to sustain yourself for days and days on end, and you really want to know how to prepare for those situations.
So give us some tips and advice. What are some things we can do to prepare?
Well, when we talk about being without electricity or being cut off from other parts of our communities, maybe during the floods or when we have tornadoes and stuff like that, you know, emergency personnel may not be able to get to us immediately like we're used to when we call 911 and we respond to your location. It may be days before you get to it, so you need to make provisions for that, make supply kits just for that purposes. And we really don't think about what our needs are at that point on what we might need, you know, when we talk about food, water, and just non-perishable things that we might need to survive depending on what type of climate we're in, you know, because we have all four seasons, so it may be during cold weathers as well. And, you know, when we talk about food, we need to make sure that we don't store back things that may make us thirsty, because we don't think about that, because you're only supposed to set aside a gallon of water for each individual a day. So if you have non-perishable stuff that you're eating, that makes you more thirstier. Salty. So they suggest, you know, getting unsalted crackers and things like that, you know, granola bars, just general things like that that you can open up, or canned goods, and make sure, you know, those are those things. And don't forget to have the can opener, because if you can't get them open, they don't have electricity and all that. So you want to think about those things for doing that.
And what other things besides food and water do you think we need to sort of have set aside? And do you think we should just keep this all in like a plastic container or something?
Well, you want to keep it somewhere where it's readily accessible, because that disaster may make you flee from your permanent location. You may have to go elsewhere. So you got to have it in some kind of devices that you can grab in a hurry, maybe throw them in the car, or your structure may got damaged and you may have to sustain in a car for a period of time. So you want to make sure those things are movable. You know, we're talking about lighting things. Most people nowadays don't have just the portable radios that operate off batteries, because if you don't have electricity, you need to kind of know what's going on in that. And, you know, your phones, make sure you've got some way to maybe even have an extra battery bought for your phone, so that you can have a battery that can charge, or some means of charging that if you're without electricity. So all those things are important. Medication is another key important thing, because a lot of people need certain medications that they can't live without. So you want to make sure you've got at least a supply of that. So you got to think of those things. If you have young kids, you got to think about the diapers and all the stuff you need, formulas. So you got to make sure you have provisions for that and keep the formulas as well. So.
And what is the fire department? Do you have any events or activities this month for people to come by and get some information, or?
Well, we always encourage to stop by, you know, just to visit the fire stations, because, you know, that way we get a much at ease interaction instead of being at your location during a time of emergency. September the 6th, we have an event that we're going to have all the emergency agencies in the area on display at the racetrack from 10 to 2 at the north entrance at the racetrack. So we'll have the Red Cross there, EMA, as well as we've got some churches that are disaster relief shelters that will be there as well. So, you know, we rely on these faith-based organizations, because generally they have, you know, a larger structure that they may take some of their members, they may take people from their communities that may be devastated with these events. So we rely on those to have a place to maybe individuals to go to.
Great. So that is on Saturday, September 6th.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Is there anything that I'm missing, anything that we need to share with the audience?
Well, you know, we just got to think safety constantly, because as parents or guardians, we need to think that when the emergency happens, we need to plan for it before it happens so we can react quickly. And you know, we've always been taught we have to look out for ourselves, because you know, sometimes those folks that we rely on to look out for us may not be there. So we've got to plan for these events, so we need to be prepared.
All righty, great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Make sure to stop by the event, and hopefully you've got a long list to head to the store now and get. I always think about bringing like that cooler that rolls. That might be easier to transport around. But anyway, we want you prepared. So thanks so much for sharing all that information, and we'll be right back.